Nonpareils.
Everywhere. Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of everything you needed to know about sugar cookies. Today with our very special guest, Jason Schreiber.
Hello.
I like to call him a sugar cookie expert.
Can it say that at the bottom of the screen?
Yeah, can we get a little
Chiron?
lower third?
Yeah.
So Jason, we're going to talk about sugar cookie cutouts, best practices.
Ready.
Okay, so to start, we have our sugar cookie dough. It's been chilling. Now, when you work with cutout cookies, do you pull your dough straight from the fridge and start rolling, or do you like kind of let it temper?
The truth is I usually pull it straight from the fridge and then I often regret it. So what I then do is I push on it really firmly.
While it's wrapped up?
Either while it's wrapped or when I've just started to unwrap it. And one thing that we actually learned in school is you can take your rolling pin and you can hit it.
I've heard tales of your perfect
Oh
flour dusting skills. May I see?
So, well, this probably isn't going to work now that you've talked it up, but you just want to put enough flour so that the dough doesn't stick, but you don't really want to get more flour into the dough than you already have.
Right.
So, just a little bit. You can put some on the top and some on the bottom.
So we were talking about this earlier, that it's sort of like skipping a stone. It's like that same action.
So you want to start in the middle of the dough rather than at the end. So right in the middle, and just push until you get to the top. And then if you're being really careful, you spin it and keep going from there. So you're always working from the middle of the dough out.
I want to tell these guys about my other favorite cookie and pie dough tool is the bench scraper. We've talked about this before, but I think it's just a great way to make sure you're not sticking. So even if you've floured your surface nice, you can come around the edge with your bench scraper, give your dough a turn, and then you're sure that you're not sticking.
I was going to say, I keep noticing on mine that this dough is cracking, which is annoying, but it happens sometimes.
It happens sometimes.
And it doesn't mean you can't use it, you just have to kind of be mindful of it when you're cutting, and just don't cut across that crack.
The fissure.
Yeah, so you can just cut on one side and then cut on the other. Sometimes the cookie will stick to the cutter and sometimes it'll stick to the surface if you haven't floured it enough.
Right.
And you just don't know exactly what you're gonna get, but you just go with it. If it does stick to the surface, don't try to pick it up with your hands. That's a good time to use your offset.
So because my dough seems to be sticking to the surface more than the cutter, I am just gonna leave it there and then pull the scraps away. So we're gonna keep cutting.
Yeah, and if you don't have a cookie cutter, you can use a glass.
That's a great point.
And if you don't have a glass, you can use a knife.
You can use a knife. So don't worry, if you don't have a cutter, you still got cookies.
If you want to make sure that your cookies stay perfectly crisp, then you need them to be very cold when they go into the oven. You want them to be frozen.
Frozen hard.
Yes, you should be able to pick them up and like tap them.
And tap them.
Yeah.
Flick them, tap them. So they should be really firm. So like 15 minutes?
In the freezer.
The freezer.
If your freezer is really cold, 15 minutes should be good. Half an hour is better.
Okay.
If you wanted to, you could freeze them for a couple of hours. Maybe you have to run an errand, that's fine.
Now, let's quickly talk about rolling scraps. I can re-roll this, right?
You can definitely re-roll it 1 or 2 times.
Okay, so this is one time.
Yeah.
Can I bake different shapes together?
You can bake different shapes together as long as they're approximately the same size.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna pop these in the freezer, let them get really firm and cold before we bake them. But if you guys just wanna make some really easy drop cookies, thumbprints, slice and bake, check out our other episode where we tell you all about this super awesome, easy to use cookie dough. Okay, into the freezer I go. We've got our awesome cutout sugar cookies baked. We froze them first. 15 minutes, 30 minutes is ideal till they were super firm. See, and that's how you get this really sharp edge. See, no bleeding edge, no like sad stars, no like tired gingerbread people. So these are cool, and now Jason, let's see how to make royal icing. It's pretty easy.
It's very easy. This is one way to make royal
Okay.
icing. So I have in this bowl 1 egg white, and I'm just gonna add, I like to put a pinch of salt in it. I think it just helps break the egg white down a little bit. And then I'm just gonna do it by hand. You could do it in a stand mixer if you were making a lot. And I'm using a whisk to do this by hand. If I were doing it in a stand mixer, I would not use the whisk, I would use the paddle. The stand mixer with the whisk is just gonna turn it into a meringue, and we're not actually looking for a meringue. We're trying to make more of a paste.
Science.
Yeah. I'm just gonna whisk it until it starts to get a little frothy.
So like looking for bubbles, for some air.
Some air, and you want it to be fairly uniform. You don't want like big bubbles and then a lot of just like liquid. You want it to be pretty even. Okay, so this has started to thicken up a little bit. It's got some body. And I'm gonna start incorporating the sugar a little bit at a time. This bowl had 2 cups of sugar in it to begin with. I think we're probably gonna use all of it. You don't know. Every egg is different.
Every egg is different. So, but what am I looking for?
So you're looking for the consistency to be something that will hold its shape and eventually get dry to the touch.
Okay.
So what I like to do is just sort of start adding the sugar and adjust as I go, and you can always add more sugar if you need to. And you can also always thin it by adding a liquid. So the easiest thing to do would be to add water, but you could thin it with lemon juice if you wanted a little bit of lemon flavor. You can thin it with white vinegar. The other thing I would say is that it's way easier to thin the icing than it is to thicken it. And whenever you're storing royal icing, you want to make sure that it's very well covered with plastic wrap pressed directly on the surface, and that'll keep any air from getting in, because air is the enemy.
Air is the enemy of icing. You heard it here. Let me know when you're ready for your next one.
You can add a little. I'm actually going to switch over to the rubber spatula. All right, so you can see it's really a different consistency than it was.
Really glossy. Can you guys see that? Okay, so these are pastry bags. You can definitely buy reusable pastry bags. I think we would both recommend those. But for the sake of learning and so you guys can see everything, we have these disposable ones. And then this, if you can see, is a coupler. So it has a little thread on it. Here is the collar. I don't know what you call that part. And then here are your pastry tips. You put this part down into your bag all the way, and you'll cut the tip off. Then all you do is line up your tip, and then this part screws into place so the tip doesn't go anywhere.
So I made this icing, I would call this toothpaste consistency.
Ah, very good.
So what I mean by that is that it is the consistency of toothpaste, but specifically, it falls on itself and it holds its shape. You see how it's not really consolidating back into the mass, and that is a really good consistency for doing lines or star tip decorations or just simple little dots, things like that. It's not the consistency that I would use if I were flooding.
Got it.
But for this project, we're gonna keep things super simple.
Super simple.
And we're just gonna do sort of a linear motif.
If you guys notice, I grabbed the bag about, I don't know, halfway up, and then I folded it back over my hand. And then you grab your friend.
It's a two-person job.
It's a two-person job. And that's sort of, like, maybe take a little more. And this way, it keeps the edge of your pastry bag clean and icing free. So then I just gingerly fold it back. Gingerly, effectively, and then I want to push it down just like the toothpaste tube.
Yeah.
What's too much icing to put in?
Well, that looks like too much. Well, too much is the amount that starts to come out the back end rather than the front.
I pressed the icing down just like the toothpaste tube, and then I twisted the top just to make it airtight.
Yeah. And that'll keep the icing going in one direction.
Got it.
Okay, so the first thing that I would do is to just get a little bit comfortable with the way the icing feels in the bag.
Okay, good.
Because
good tip.
it's always going to be a little different. So I like to just start by letting it attach itself to the cookie and then pulling back. And you notice I'm not directly on the surface except for when I want to change direction. I'm going right up to the cookie and I'm attaching to the last bit, and then I'm lifted up in the air, and I'm just going to let the icing fall until I need to change direction here. And then I'm just letting it fall
And it was just kind of
and
like a
changing
tap.
direction.
Like you're
Yeah,
not even
I don't
putting-
even go all the way down.
Right. So the star, because it's sort of these open corners, I wasn't really getting close. Oh, it's so perfect. Nice. Okay, now let's talk about gingerbread people.
Let's talk about them.
What's the minimum I can do to dress this guy up for the holiday?
I mean, I think the minimum would be like a smiley face and some buttons.
Okay, I'm gonna go bow tie.
Oh, that's like an advanced technique.
Look at this. This guy's ready to party.
He's great. Maybe I'll just do a bunch of little dots all over the star. While the frosting is still wet, it's kind of just like school glue. And sanding sugar is basically glitter, and I'm just gonna sprinkle it, and I'm gonna
Good
use
idea.
way more than it ultimately needs. And then just tip it over. And then the sugar mostly just sticks to the royal icing.
So pretty.
Yeah. And then you can reuse this sanding sugar, obviously, if you just sort of tip
As long
it
as
into
it's
it.
not sticky.
Yeah.
And then once I have all these decorated, how long should I give them to dry?
Well, it's really important, especially if you're going to be giving them as gifts or stacking them in any way, that they're completely dry.
Completely dry.
And that's going to be affected by the temperature, the humidity, how much liquid was in the royal icing to begin with. I would say, to be safe, let them sit overnight.
Okay, just at room temperature,
Yeah.
uncovered. Get in the kitchen, make some royal icing, get the whole family involved, and have a good time. We're gonna keep going, making some gorgeous
Oh,
stars.
look at that.
Wow. Well, Jason, thank you for being here and sharing all of your cookie decorating tips.
All of them.
Guys, for more, head over to realsimple.com for so many great cookie decorating ideas, but we'll be here decorating cookies. Jason, thanks.
All day.
Happy holidays. Do you like cookies? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more easy stuff like this right around here.